This is Stephen Sloan. The date is March 2nd, 2012. I'm with Mr. John Valls at his home in Laredo, Texas. And this is an interview we're doing for the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission's Texas Liberators project. Thank you, Mr. Valls.
You're quite welcome.
For sitting down with me today and allowing us to take over your space here for a little while. I wanted to start out by, you were telling me a little bit about the Valls family.
Yes.
And some of the Valls family background. I'd love to get some of that on the recording if you'd share it.
On my mother's side, we were here, my family was here 54 years after Columbus in Mexico. They were soldiers in the Spanish Army. And we've been here in the New World, as they called it then, since then. But my uncles, my great uncle Armengol, Juan Armengol, and his brothers came to Mexico in 1864, I think. And they had ranches in Mexico. I think one of the ranches was 200,000 acres. They were very prosperous because they were hard workers. The Armengol family was my grandmother. My father, Antonio Valls, lived in Suitavia, which is 30 miles southwest of Barcelona. And he didn't speak neither English nor Spanish. He spoke Catalan. And when he came to the United States, because my grandfather in Spain died and left my grandmother with 3 boys, Jaime, Miguel, and Juan. And so my uncles from the Armengol family, who were that was his sister that my grandfather was married to, brought my 3 brothers, my father and his 2 brothers to the new country and put them to work. Actually, my father was sent to Cuba to learn Spanish, and then he was sent to St. Edward's University to learn English. And he did both very well. He was very successful. He ran a firm for the company in Cuba. But then he was transferred to Mexico and ran the farm there. It was a vast farm. Then one of my uncles came to Laredo because another one of my uncles had died here in Laredo. Mm-hmm. So my godfather is Juan Armengol. He changed his name to John because he was then dealing with New York and everything. They became very, very prosperous. We had the largest Bermuda onion plant in the world. If you ate a hamburger anywhere in the United States between 1909 and 1932, you ate one of our onions or one of our tomatoes, or both. We grew Bermuda onion plants and we sent them all over the United States. We were listed in Dun & Bradstreet, and as I remember, the first time that the income tax came out, my uncle paid the biggest income tax in Texas, which was $75,000. And that was just probably 2 or 3%, because incidentally, my father then married my mother in 1907 and started my family, which amounted to 11 kids. The second one died at birth, but all the rest survived. It's Ralph, the oldest, Tony, my sister, the oldest girl, then Josie, then Mike, and then the first Mike died, the second Mike lived, then Louis, then Carmen, then Concha, then Alfonso, then me, John, and then Willie. That was the family. And but we've been here, incidentally, when the dictator in Mexico took over, all my uncles came to Texas, but we still owned the land in Mexico. And when the new regime in Mexico took over, they didn't want to pay us for the land that we owned. So my father made arrangements that we were going to sue Mexico, found out we can't sue Mexico. It's got to be a country. So we went to the United States. The United States loaned them the money to pay us for the land that we had, which was millions. And Mexico got the money, but they said, hey, we'll pay you later. To this day, we haven't seen a penny. But fortunately, my father did real well. We really lived great. We had everything. Each one of us kids had a nanny, a pilmama. And we had, Guy B. Harrison said, hey, your mother must have been a real good cook. I said, my mother didn't cook. We had 2 cooks. That what was your house? How many bedrooms? Said we had 4 bedrooms right down in downtown Laredo. 10 blocks from the river, mind you, on San Bernardo Street. And he said, well, how about your mother? Who takes care? He said, we got 2 maids. And we've got a house that the maids and the cooks live in the back. We were doing great until 1939, when my father declared bankruptcy. My uncle had gotten rid of all the onion plants and all the tomato plants, planted 42,000 orange trees. They were ready to bear 3 years later. 1941, the temperature dropped to 14 degrees the next day, and 20 degrees the next day. I can still remember going there. My uncles were burning tires under the trees to try to save them. We saved a few, but all of them were burned. And my uncles did not believe in insurance. They lost everything. My father, incidentally, my uncle John Armengol, who was my godfather too, died from catching pneumonia from that. He died 2 months later. And
he caught pneumonia that night.
Yes, he caught pneumonia from that, and he died. My father was left with a huge amount of money that my uncle had borrowed to plant the trees. My uncles did not believe in insurance. We either had feast or famine. Most of the times it was feast. We lived very well. But
so they weathered the Depression.
Yes,
okay.
But 1939 finally. Yeah, we even owned a hotel, the St. Anthony Hotel, downtown Laredo. And that's an interesting story because Pat Neff was the governor of Texas when Blanco had come to Laredo because they were chasing him. He was supposed to be the president, but there was some friction in Mexico. He stepped across the river and went to the St. Anthony Hotel, was living there until the problems. Pat Neff sent a ranger from the Texas Rangers to kill him. And he did kill him. And my father was subpoenaed for the case. At that time, a man by the name of John Valls, not related to us, but same name, was the district attorney. And he was tough. A president from Mexico was coming back to Laredo, and he was one of the ones that was involved in getting Blanco killed. Mm-hmm. John Valls told the president of the United States, I'm going to arrest him when he comes to Laredo. and he was legally right. What the President of the United States did was he put a company of Marines on the train and got the President of Mexico to come to Laredo and went right straight through. He didn't stop. But John Valls would have arrested him. He was a good friend of the family. We knew him very well, but he was not related. He came from the Canary Islands, and his father was William Valls. He was in the Confederate Army, and after the war, the Civil War, he couldn't find a job as a lawyer, so he came to Brownsville. And that's where John Valls, the district attorney, was born in Missouri, someplace in Missouri. I know, because I got all his collegiate things that say, they thought I was, said like Baylor, census of Baylor letter and all that. They sent me all this thing. I had to tell them, hey, I'm not John Valls. As a matter of fact, I had a call from the New York Times, and he says, are you John Valls? And I said, yes. And the guy says, well, I'm the editor of New York Times, and from the sound of your voice, you're not who we're looking for. We're looking for the old John Valls that was the district attorney, because there had been a problem here in Laredo with Carter. Carter, a man by the name of Carter, was a border patrolman. He killed a Mexican boy on his ranch. John Valls tried him, found him guilty. They reversed the sentence in Austin, Texas. And the New York Times wanted to find out, because Carter became the president of the National Rifle Association, Harlan Carter. And incidentally, I went to school with his two brothers, Gene and Lee Carter. And his sister is one of my good friends here in Laredo. But they asked me, you know anything about it? I said, no, but I can find out. So I went to the court and found out what had happened. And I wrote them the story, and the New York Times published it. Then Harlan Carter decided to sue me and the New York Times. And the New York Times called me and said, hey, don't worry, we've got you covered. If they sue you, you're not gonna lose anything. But Carter dropped the case anyway. But that's my family's from Spain. My mother was born here in Texas, but her ancestors were born in Mexico, but all from Spanish people. My great-great-great-great-grandfather was the last mayor of Laredo, Mexico, the first mayor of Laredo, Texas. The King of Spain sent a man to settle claims here in Laredo, and because people were grabbing land without grants and everything, and the country was still part of Spain. The man came, his name was Sotomayor. His wife came with him. She was embarazada, means pregnant, when she left Spain. She came to the new country. The Sotomayor did a heck of a good job in settling claims. Nobody liked him. They formed a posse and they were going to kill him. That was my great-great-great-grandfather. They got to a point in the house, and they told the man, look, my wife is going to have a baby tonight, and they're coming to get us. The man took him in. She had the baby, and the man, they got up, and he said, we've got to go because they're going to come here. And by the way, before that happened, the posse came by, and the man told them they went that way. And so the posse left. Later that my grandfather left. He was never found again. They got him and killed him. But the boy was born And he took the name of the man that took him in. His name was Martinez. There's a picture of him right over there, blue-eyed, because both my parents had blue eyes. And the man had blue eyes. His name was Martinez. He grew up to be the last mayor of Laredo, Mexico, and the first mayor of Laredo, Texas.
Well, I'd like to go back to when you were talking about your early life. Did y'all help out on the farm?
Yes.
Did you do work? What sort of work did you do on the farm?
No, not. We had 400 people on the farm. We had houses for them. They lived on San Rafael farm. As a matter of fact, they were paid in chits that they used to buy from our grocery store on the farm. They didn't come to town. And incidentally, those chits, metal chits, I've got 2 of them somewhere, were even accepted in Laredo as money. But we had 400 people at the ranch all the time. No, my father took me and Alfonso to plant tomato plants at night to teach us what it was like. I tell you what, that's hard work. Because you do it at night because you can't plant in the day. You just hit a shovel, put the plant in, get it up, and you had to do it. Oh boy, you got tired. But no, we had a ranch house and we had a house in Laredo. The ranch house was great, big. We had parties there. Everybody came to the parties at San Rafael farm. So yeah, that was.
So what are some of your memories from those years?
My aunt managed the grocery store. One time, unbeknown to me, I was accused of eating 3 bananas because the inventory showed that there were 3 bananas left. They blamed me for it. I remember, I don't know if I was punished or not, but I was just a little kid. I didn't eat the bananas. But no, and then we used to go and ride a yegua mare that Don Sotero had a mare, one of the people that worked at the ranch, and we rode that mare. We also went to school. We had our own school. We had our own building at the ranch. And I went to the 1st and 2nd grade with Miss Beulah Masterson. We called her Miss Beulah. We were there at the ranch and we went to 1st and 2nd grade, and we did a play of Harrison. Harrison, that's me, Harrigan, spells Harrigan. I was Harrigan in the play. And I remember the burning of tires under the orange trees to try to save them. And you know what? That's one of the first memories that I have of my life. Because another memory, and I don't know which came first, I was run over by a car from a very wealthy person in Mexico. And he ran over me and left. And he left, but he got to Mexico and he said, hey, I'll pay for everything. He was a good friend of the family's. He was also one of the big shots in Mexico. And at one time he was considered to be run for president. But they didn't expect me to live. And I remember they brought me home finally, and I lived. They broke my leg and my arm and fractured my skull. And the doctor said, he's gone. Don't expect him tomorrow. But I lived. And but the guy was very nice, but he never came back to the United States. He was a good friend of my brother Mike. He was a young man. He was very, very wealthy, and they still are. But that was also one of the first memories that I had, because they brought me home, and my brother Alfonso, we call him Lefty because he's a left-hander, and I remember that they brought us some phones, and he was in one room, I was in the next, with a string tied to the phones, and we were talking to each other. Shucks, we could hear it through the walls. But and I remember distinctly my sister Tony saying, "I'm going to the drugstore," and my mother said, "Bring Johnny a present." I remember that. It was all in Spanish, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And when I got my present, it was a beautiful box. It must have been close to Christmas, because it was red, wrapped with green string, and it was a car. It was one of those cars that you wind, and I remember that distinctly. And they have a saying that my sister Josie said that one time I was a little kid, I could barely speak, and my nanny was telling me, "Oh, Johnny, I'm gonna go. If you don't do this, I'm gonna go." And in Spanish I said, "Vase," which is not even right, because it's "váyase" is the word. Get away, váyase. I didn't like her, and but Josie is the one that I must have been 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another. Oh yeah, my nanny later on. I had a nanny for years. When I was older and they punished me, they always sent me to the basement, and told my nanny I thought I'd impress her in Spanish. If I had a knife, I'd kill myself. Oh, she ran to my mother. My mother, she says, and later she came crying and says, "Your mother says, here's a knife." That was my first lesson in psychology. I said, "Well, maybe not today."
So you would go to the basement, just sit in the dark?
Yeah, they put me in 15 minutes and then they let me out. But I had a dog named Duke who was the smartest thing, and he was like, he understood everything I said. I got him in 1933. My brother Louis took me in the car to get him, and he died in 1953. Yeah. And that dog was, oh boy, I've got a picture of him somewhere. Oh man, that dog was, you couldn't, if my buddies even said a nasty thing to me, wow, he'd get him. One of my good friends, Danny Pena, one time was much bigger than me and much older, and he was, trying to hit me or something. Duke came at him, and then he climbed up a telephone pole, and I kept him there for a long time, because I told him. And then finally, when he came down, I said, "Duke, no, don't fool with him. He's a friend." He understood.
Uh-huh.
And one time, my brother and I were trying, and he asked me, "Let's see what he'd do if you and I got in a fight." So we started shoving each other. He got in between us, and he was, like, hey, your family, don't fight. Wow, man, I'm telling you, that was something.
Good dog.
But on my childhood, incidentally, all of us, what we did for fun was run around the block. That's where we got our athletic training. At Bruni Plaza, we lived with the mayor, the district attorney, and Don Antonio Bruni, who was King Kong here in Laredo in those days. We lived in the same block. Mr. Bruni and his daughter Erlinda lived next to us, and then the Valls. On the other end was Dr. Austin, I forget the lady's name that was in between, and then J.C. Martin, who was King Kong here in Laredo. If you wanted anything, even the mafia would report to J.C. Martin. I made a big mistake when I graduated from Baylor. I came to see J.C. Martin for a job, and of course I got one. The superintendent thought that I should have gone to him, so he never did like me. J.W. Nixon, they named the high school after him. He never did like me. And yet, when we went to the Texas relays, it was the driver, Coach Green, the superintendent, the principal, and me in the middle, in a very small car to the Texas relays. And to the state meet, same thing. And
well, I know sports was very important.
It was my life. All my brothers were great, and all of us were great. Alfonso was on the world record sprint relay team at East Texas State Teachers College. Alfonso also didn't graduate from high school. Coach Berry at East Texas took him, and Carlos Salinas. Carlos Salinas, a Laredoan, was on the same team as Alfonso. They were both maybe 1/10 of 1 second difference in the 100. He ran a 48.4 in high school, which was 46 won the World Olympics. 48.4 in high school. And in state meet, he knocked down 2 guys, Beard and Ellsworth, to win the state meet, and was disqualified. He went between them instead of going around them. He won the 440, but they disqualified him. Salinas. He has since passed away. But Alfonso was also a state contender, and he also had a bunch of scholarships. He became a B-29 pilot and flew 30 missions over Japan. And but in those days, I mean, we ran as you know, to entertain ourselves.
Well, you talked about your records. Can you tell me that again about your older brother set the records?
Oh yeah, Mike, my brother Ralph was a gun fiend and all that, and he never was an athlete. And then Mike came in. He ran high school. He in one game he scored 3 touchdowns, 60 yards, 64 yards, and 72 yards against Kingsville. In another game against Robstown, he scored 4 touchdowns. A guy from San Antonio, Perry Winkle was his name, writer, came to interview him and named him Iron Mike. At the end of his interview, he said, as the Laredo High School Tigers go, Mike Valls, Iron Mike goes as the Laredo High School goes. Because I did a thing on Mike. He scored 3 or 4 touchdowns in any, and he went to what's in, Kingsville.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Kingsville. He went there and he got his degree from Kingsville. He came back, but my father was on the school board, so they couldn't give him a job in teaching. So he taught in the country schools. He decided that wasn't for him, so he went to Marquette University. He went back to Texas A&I at Kingsville to get his master's, and then he went to Marquette University for a doctor, and he stayed there 4 years, and he graduated in 46, February the 28th, 1946. Because I was there, 46. And but he was a super athlete. He also went to state, ran a under 10 flat 100. Louis came along, and he was even better. He was also on the same football team, and he was also a great basketball player. And Louis didn't like going to college, so he enlisted in the Air Force, Army Air Force. And then came Alfonso, who was the first one to high jump over 6 feet. In those days, we had the Texas roll, which was 6 feet was an obstacle. I mean, and he was the first one to high jump over 6 feet. He ran the hurdles. He hit a hurdle in the state meet and didn't finish. But they knew he was great. So he got a scholarship anyway. And then I came and I did everything. I ran the highs, the lows, I jumped, pole vaulted, quarter mile. I played basketball, I was the leading scorer. I played football, I scored half of the touchdowns of the whole team. But then came the war, and I was drafted. I still had one more year in high school. I would have swept everybody. But as it was, that year was spent in the Army. I took basic training in Amarillo. I made the football team in Amarillo. We were there for basic training, and I remember when I faked out and went in and caught a pass, and the coach said, okay, hey, you stay. So they gave me a uniform and everything. But then I took pilot training. I took the test for pilot. I always loved airplanes or model airplanes. I passed it. And they sent me to Central State Teachers College, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. January the 1st, 1945, I marched into Central State Teachers College. The minute I got in, I was inside a building and they told us what the rules were. You cannot accept any phone calls. You cannot go outside. I had a call. John Valls said, yes. John, I want to meet you. A girl said, hey, I want to meet you. Come on outside. I said, no, I'm sorry. I can't do it. Please come outside. I got to meet you. I said, who in the world would I had to tell her, hey, man, I'm sorry. She said, you better come out because I'm going to grade your English papers. I didn't. I got it married anyway. But I got it taken off because I wrote letters. I don't know the girl. How she got my name, I don't never know. But it was beautiful. CTD, College Training Detachment. I set the record for the 300 meters the first month. I broke it the second month, and I broke it again the third month. And I made the basketball team, and the coach there said, hey, when you get through with this, come back and see me, because we want you here.
Well, that was after the war, right?
No, that was right at the beginning of the war.
So what year was that? That was
I marched in 1944.
Uh-huh.
I stayed there until March. They eliminated us without prejudice. We didn't do anything wrong. The whole school was gone because they had too many pilots. I went before a colonel and he says, what do you feel like? I said, well, sir, he says, and they told me, I'm going to send you to a gunnery school. You're going to be a gunner on an airplane. And I said, sir, I thought I'd impress him. I said, sir, if I can't fly the airplane, nobody's going to fly it for me. He didn't say anything, wrote something down, and he said, next. The next day I was in the infantry. They transferred me in the infantry. They sent me to Reno, Nevada. I did nothing but went out in a truck in the sand and stayed in a tent. They were training us to go to North Africa. Fortunately, I got my orders changed. I don't know why. They sent me to Greensboro, North Carolina. There I was in a track meet. I won everything. And then they sent me to Boston. I shipped out of Boston. 14 days to Southampton, England. Out of the 14 days, I was seasick 13. Had you
ever been on the ocean before?
No. And you had a bunk, and if you were lucky, you got the top bunk, because the guy at the top would vomit and it would come all the way down. And it happened. It happened. Oh God, I suffered.
Did you have the top bunk?
Yes.
No.
I was one of the last. I don't know how I survived, but we got to England, and sure enough, that episode where I found a field that we didn't train on Sundays. I found a field, beautiful track field, with hurdles and all. I went and ran there. A man, a very well-dressed man, saw me. I know it was him, because when I got back to the base Air Depot number 2, we were taking infantry training. They said, "Hey, the colonel wants to see you." I went and saluted him. Well, what the heck did I do? And he said, "They want you to go run in London." I said, "Yes, sir, that's fine." They flew me in a C-47 all by myself. Into London, and that's when they told us, "Hey, the Queen is going to be here. We want you British subjects to stand before. When she comes out, you will bow like this, and you Yank, you don't have to bow, but you can stand at attention." But everything was, the Queen was like a god to them. It was, and I got the fever too. And when everybody came, and when she came out, and I bowed too, just like the rest of them. But I won the 400-meter hurdles. I've never run the 400-meter hurdles before. And they even had a kid in front of me, and I said, hey, how am I gonna pass him? They said, "No, you can pass him. He's younger than you. These are handicaps." But they said handicaps, not handicaps. And I passed him, and I won. So the next week, the colonel called me, and they want you to go to someplace else. So I forget where. And I went, and again I won. And the third week is again C-47 to another meet. And again I won, and they gave me a prize and everything. I sent the prizes to Laredo, and they got here. My sisters all had cutlery sets and this and that. And like I said before, in one of them I had a certificate. It was signed by a bunch of lords. I got it somewhere. I think it's in one of those books that my daughter made of me. And it said, "This medal will be given to you when obtainable." And this was during the war, so I understood that. And this was in I think March? No. Well, August of 1944? Yeah, 44. I found the certificate in August 94, and I sent it to the ambassador to the United States in here in Washington. Oh, he sent me a very nice letter. Says, "Please refer your request to some town in England." So I did the same things. "When do I get my medal?" And they wrote back, says, "We have received your inquiry with great interest. We will be in touch." In about 2 weeks, they sent me the medal. It was really something. But in England, in training, I had real good training. We were in England, and we were sitting on the side of a hill, about 200 of us. And this master sergeant, he had battle scars and everything, with hand grenades, and he was shaking. and says, today we're gonna teach you about hand grenades. When you pull this trigger and you let it drop, it'll go off in 5 seconds. So don't ever pull the trigger. And he pulled it and he dropped it. Zoom! Everybody left. I was hitting on people, and then I dove down to get the hell out of the way. We all counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing. We looked up, and there was a sign that said, "Come on back. There's nothing wrong with me. I just want to see if there's any heroes here." Who was gonna pick up the grenade, throw it away? Not any of them. And that was good training. But then, like I told you before, the first day we finally shipped out to Le Havre. We came in Le Havre. It was already taken. We didn't have to fight for it. We went up Le Havre, and immediately I was assigned to the 52nd Armored Infantry Battalion, to the 9th Armored Division, to the 3rd Army with General Patton. And we had a lesson that we had to say the words, kill or be killed. Kill or be killed. 30 times a day. We had to say it. Anytime you met a buddy, it says, kill or be killed. And Patton, I didn't see him. The sergeant gave us, or the captain or somebody, gave us said, you will not surrender. You will die, but you will not surrender. You will not retreat. You might die, but you will not retreat. Understand that. And with Patton, it was, it impressed all of us kids. And sure enough, finally I get to see my first German soldier in combat, face to face. I had him with my M1 off of safety. I was a good shot. And I'll tell you later about qualifying. Ask me, because I might forget. But I was a good shot, and I couldn't shoot him. I couldn't kill him, because I turned cold. And I couldn't shoot him. He threw his gun down and surrendered. Ooh. I took him in. I caught a Nazi. I didn't even know how to pronounce Nazi. And I told the sergeant, I couldn't kill him. I turned cold. I said, don't worry, son. Next time you won't. And sure enough, it was, from that day on, it was rough. It was bad. But I had the same experience that Sergeant York had in firing. Man, I knew about guns. Tommy Linedecker here in Laredo, when we were 9 years old, we used to go to his ranch, the Bruni Estate. They had about 100,000 acres in his Lincoln Zephyr car on the fender with a .22 shooting rabbits. All of us kids in the neighborhood. We were good. If you missed, Tommy Linedecker, Bucephalo, he would. So when I went to the firing range, with an old rifle, Winchester or something, wow, miss. No, can't be. Wow, miss. 3 times, wow, miss. I said, sorry, something's wrong. I didn't miss. Oh, here's another one. All right, bring the damn things down. It's all bullseyes. They didn't even look to see. You were with those guys. There's some guys from New York that had never seen a gun. And they, oh man, I qualified immediately. Wow. But that was also very impressive. I was only a PFC, but I was the leader. Everybody followed me, even in my half track. everybody followed me. What I did, I told them what to do, and they did. And the master sergeant was in charge of us, and he gave us the instructions every day. But the first guy that, when I finally got to France, a captain, I forget his name, but he's told me, I'm your CO here, and I don't wear my bars because it's nothing but an aiming stick. Sure enough, in 4 days he was killed. Out of a company of 22 that I joined with, 2 of us from the original came back. It was hell. It was really hell. And you try to tell kids, you got to dig a hole every night, whether it's raining, snowing, or whatever. You got to dig a hole, because if you are above the ground, mortars come and hand grenades come, and they go this way and that way. So, I mean, every night. And many times we took houses, we took towns that didn't fight. We had an American officer that spoke German. Every time we got to a town, he'd say, if you fire 1 shot at us, we will destroy your town. If you don't fire at us, we're not going to disturb you. We're not going to fire either. So please surrender and avoid bloodshed and whatever. Sometimes we went in, no problem. Sometimes we went in and kids with Panzerfaust, rifles with hand grenades, boom, boom, beat the hell out of us. And it was, we lost a lot of people. You didn't make friends. You did not make friends because your friend was gone the next day. And I got wounded. I don't have the Purple Heart, but I got wounded. And on my leg and in my arm. If I hadn't been wearing my helmet, I would have been killed. The thing exploded on top of us. I felt bling, 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 bling. And the guy next to me, the Polak, I'm hit. He was covered with blood, all in front. And so, hey, medic. So they went and got him, took him off. The next day they brought him back with a Band-Aid. He had been hit right here. Nothing but a little thing, but enough for blood. He was mad as hell. I remember it. And that night, all of us tried to take our jackets off, and mine wouldn't. The jacket had stopped the blood, and in my leg too. But we didn't say any. I don't have the Purple Heart, but I was wounded. And but that's another beautiful thing. 2, number 1, I'd lie in my hole at night and see thousands of bombers coming over. Thousands coming over. I said, God, we cannot lose this war. Because there was doubt when we went in. The United States was number 7 in power. Germany was first, England was second, France was third, Italy was fourth, Japan was fifth, and somebody else, I forget, Italy or whatever, we were number 7. We didn't know that we could win the war, but we did. And I tell you, now they're saying in books, the Germans said, how in the world did you get that much equipment in? Because we had it. We got 3 little boxes of food a day. And sometimes we didn't. I was going to tell you another thing. One night we're already dug in and they say, hey, Company C, come on out. What the hell? They're going to give us a bath. Let me tell you about the bath later on. And it's nighttime. They can't give us a bath now. So we went into a railroad station. There's Jack Leonard, who used to sing for Tommy Dorsey, singing, Marie, the dawn is breaking. Marie, I loved music before, and I knew about him because he had quit Tommy Dorsey, and then Frank Sinatra came in. He was in the front lines for about an hour. He sang there and then back to the demos. But oh boy, and then every month they gave us a bath. You went and there was a block square with tarpaulins all over. Must have been 10,000 of us at a time. We had wooden ramps, hot water from a thing. You went in there, took all your clothes off, threw them away. They fumigated you and grabbed your pirates and then you got a bar of soap. Oh man, white soap. And oh God, you with soap you washed and everything. Oh, and then a clean towel to dry with, and then you had your rifle inspected. And the day before, an airplane was strafing us, and I forgot I had a brush on top of my M1. I took my gun off, and before thinking, I fired at him. Pow! I mean, the bullet destroyed the damn barrel because the brush had been in there. Eesh. And the sergeant says, "What in the hell did you do with this gun?" I said, "I don't know, Sergeant. Give me another one." But and one time, I emptied my gun at a giant German airplane, 4 engines, with an Me-210 on top of it, twin engine, with both the big airplane and the little airplane going full blast, taking off 40, 50 yards from me. We were patrolling that area. Pow! I got my M1. Pow! 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 I got all 8 shots in there. I was shooting at the big airplane. The little airplane had the controls in it. Those were Germans, officers and all that, going to Brazil. In the giant airplane. The small airplane got up to a certain distance and then went off. But that happened, and I tell the story now to everybody because oh boy, it's amazing. It was. But towards the end, we were so tired mentally, not physically. We were strong, but so tired mentally that I prayed, and so did everybody else, to get killed or get this goddamn war over with. And those are the exact words. Please, I've had it. I don't see the end. I don't see the end. I'm here and I can't do anything about it. I'm hungry, I'm scared, I'm tired, I'm cold. It was bad. You cannot imagine. And that's when I was at the lead of a patrol, and here comes an army coming on the Autobahn towards us. We were going this way and they were coming that way. I said, that can't be an American army. They got closer, big old swastika flying. I said, oh shit. I turned around, I was going to go and report to Colonel Westmoreland. Later he became a general. He was the 9th Armored Division commander. And here comes a German Jeep over a rise, flying a surrender flag, a white flag. Ooh, so I stopped and I had my gun on him, and he got out and saluted. He spoke better English than I did, me with my Spanish accent. And he said, General Model wishes to surrender his army. Wow. So I take him in. First I said, okay, I'll drive. And he said, no, I'll drive. I said, no, I'll drive. I got in, and the German Jeep was not like an American car. I was, and the colonel was cringing. I said, okay, you drive. and I made the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. I should have gone in and said, sir, I've captured an army. Instead, I told the colonel, go ahead and surrender. He came out with photographers and everybody, generals and everybody, and they left me by the wayside. But the book says we took in 300,000 soldiers that day. It was me, and they give me credit for in one of the write-ups there. It says Germans, Hitler's top general surrenders to PFC John Valls. That was the article one of the articles that they did on me. But that happened but finally.
You knew the war was turning. Yeah.
April the 30th, we were going to take Berlin. Eisenhower comes and says, no, go south. The Russians are going to take it. Thank God, because I wouldn't have lasted another invasion like that. Hitler shot himself that day, April the 30th. I was about 20 maybe about 20 kilometers, what they used then, from him. About 14 miles, I think. I figured out where the bunker was and where I was. I was there. And we went south. Then we're gonna liberate Prague. Praha. We are almost at Prague. We're within the seeing the city. Again, Eisenhower said, hey, get the hell out of there. The Russians are gonna take it. There was a very pretty girl there in Prague that begged me. He says, please, please, please. She spoke English. Please take me back. Please, they're gonna kill me here. Please. I said, okay. I brought her with me in the half track all the way to Rehau. We were at night looking for a little concrete thing that separated Czechoslovakia with Germany. Rehau. So we are in Rehau, fine. That's where we met the Russians. And the Russians had a rope across the street. We couldn't go over it, but they could come over. I was on a flatbed with a girl. Understand, platonic. Okay, it wasn't. We weren't sexual or sex. They said that we would rape them and all that. We didn't do that. All our soldiers were good, and this girl was there with me, and a Russian officer was making points with her, and he came on top of the truck, and I told him, hey, Ruski, 999, Fräulein mine, understand? Verstehen Sie? Fräulein mine, not yours, okay? And he still, I told him, pow, man, I hit him and knocked him off of the thing and took his pistol and beat the hell out of it. And nothing ever happened. But that happened. I had a fight with a Russian. They were dirty. They were bad. They were bad. And but the war ended for me in Rehau. I was only there 14 days. I met another girl that was very nice. They had no food. At that time, right after the war, we had provisions that were called 10 in 1. That means 10 meals in one. We didn't have the little sea rations or whatever they called them anymore. We were getting even powdered milk, powdered eggs, very good. I gave them to this man. I went to her house. I met her father. Her father was a professor, and in return he was teaching me German. Oh man, if I'd have stayed in Germany 6 months, I'd have learned the language. I still know quite a bit, but enough to hold up infantrymen. Haben Sie du Geld? That means you have any money? Yeah, 1,000. I've got it right there. But it was, German people were great. I wondered, we were fighting the wrong people. We took the town of Dresden, China. I was assigned to guard one of the factories. I went in there and I looked around. There was no German soldiers or anything. And I told the guy spoke English very well. And I said, all I want is a room. I want a cot, a bed, a blanket, and water. That's all. And leave me alone. He did that. He brought me everything. And I was already in bed sleeping, and he knocked on the door. Says, what's your address in Laredo? Says, what do you want to know for? Says, no, I'm gonna send you these boxes. He had 2 boxes. I mean, I said, hey, you can't do that. I can. Just give me your address in Laredo. I said, okay. 1004 San Bernardo, Laredo, Texas, USA. That's it. They got here. My sister, dressed in China, the best China that they made, they got here. And because later on I wrote a letter to my sister, says, hey, did you ever get a package? She said, yes, we got it. It's beautiful. My daughter still has some of the dressed in China that man sent to me. And I remember Hilda, a survivor from one of the prison camps, came to talk here in Laredo. And I met with her because they told me, hey, we want you to go and see this lady. She was in a prison camp. I said, well, she married the guy that freed her, an American lieutenant. I did the same thing with Belsen. And Helga knew about that, so when she spoke at the Civic Center, about 4,000 people there, she told me sit at the front, because in her speech she says, I want to mention John Valls is sitting right there, that he was there with me. We didn't know each other, but she knew where I was because they had put him on a bridge. They thought we were going to bomb the bridge. We didn't. We bombed the train station. And but she knew that. And she said, stand up, and I took a bow and everything. God, all the Jewish people that were there, some very high prominent Laredoans here, when I was coming out, they wanted to shake my hand because they knew that I was there. I showed her the pictures about the atrocities that happened. I didn't realize that. I didn't know, but I had no Jewish people to me are people, that's all. And they're successful because they get together. They're a family. We Catholics are not. And the Baptists are too, but I learned a lot about that. But she pointed me out in her talk because she said, I don't know what his rank was, but to me he's the general, because she was so nice, and we communicate now.
Well, before we get to Belsen, I want you to tell your Belsen story, but had you heard of the camps, or did you know about the camps?
No. We didn't know anything. I learned about Goering and Goebbels and all those after the war. I didn't know. I was just a kid from high school that really was very naive. I didn't know anything, no. But when I saw that, I thought, how can any people do that to other people? It's impossible. It's impossible.
Well, take me back through finding the camp.
One day, I don't even remember what the orders were for that day. I know that we were under Montgomery. We were not, the 9th Armored Division had been loaned to Montgomery, but we were still taking orders from my sergeant. My sergeant told me, hey, patrol this area and go into this area. And I was alone, mind you. And I walked and I saw a giant wall right on the street. And I said, this is strange. I didn't know it was a prison camp. I opened the gate. It wasn't even locked. I opened the gate, and as soon as I walked in, I heard, oh, somebody scored a touchdown in a football game. But it was very muffled. And I walked in, and everybody was looking at me. Everybody was standing. And there were some people in racks that I could see. They were laying down and all they did was got their heads up and looked and came right back down. They were dying. They were, and it stunk. It was very, and all of a sudden this man comes up to me and tells me, he was trying to give me his prized possession, which was a sleeveless rabbit skin coat. I said, no, I can't. I'm an American soldier. I can't take anything. Go, you're free. You're free. Go. I said, I can't take anything. Please, I can't take anything. Go, you're free. I took it. And then he left. But then very soon thereafter, the English came in. And I understand that Life magazine was also there, because I've got the magazine that shows the pictures that they took. And Eisenhower got the people in the town to come and parade down and see what the atrocity was about. 5,000 bodies on the street, all just there. I never saw anything like that. It was gruesome. It was, as a matter of fact, I wanted to get the hell out of there, because I couldn't, number one, I couldn't stand the smell, and number two, there was already some British soldiers coming in after me, and they were in charge. Let them be in charge. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I went on. But now I know where I was, and I know that Life magazine was there the next day, but it was gruesome. I was so naive. I didn't know the difference between blacks. I had never seen maybe one or two black people in Laredo. And at Camp Kilmer, I was on the starting lineup with four blacks and myself. And one of them was named Jackie Robinson, not the Jackie Robinson of baseball fame, but Jackie Robinson, about my age. He was also very good. And we did the first alley-oop. We were playing against Seton Hall, and I went up center and jumped real high, got the ball, and zoom, whoa! The gym exploded. And after we got down, the other guys said, hey, you guys do that again? The first alley-oop, and I know one thing. I know I have a guardian angel. I know it. I've been in so many bad things that somebody did speak for me. Even now, my guardian angel has got me out of some serious trouble that I could have gotten into if I've had offers of a lot of illegal things, and somehow somebody talks for me. Somebody says words that, was that me? I know it. It's I've got a guardian angel. I hope Oh, it's, and one time I was assigned after a battle. We had won a battle, and I was in charge of identifying our dead. We had German civilians with mule carts, wagons, picking up our dead and placing them on the cart, on the wagon. I was in charge of getting their dog tags and making sure they were Americans. Because, in combat, I mean, you get dirty and everything. I got so tired of seeing those gray faces pulling out the tags from several wagons. I got so tired of seeing them that I said, to hell with it. If they've got green socks, they go. And from then on, I just looked at the socks. They were gray, take them off. If they were green, leave them there. But that happened, and it made an impression on me, even though I didn't think of anything at the time. But when you die, when you're killed, you turn gray. Everybody. And I remember that was one of my jobs. After a battle, you did everything. You did. In the Army, it's not like the movies. Audie Murphy was a real hero. And they say we're heroes. They call me a hero. And one time we were going to take a U-shaped building, green, 2 stories with bunkers on each end, firing at us, machine guns. I got under one of the bunkers, and with a hand grenade, just boom, they quit firing. The sergeant comes up and they say, "You stupid bastard, what the hell do you think you were doing? What if that hand grenade hadn't gone in there, would have killed all of us?" He was right. I shouldn't have done it, but I did it, and it turned out, the rumor had it was a house for prostitutes for the SS. And another time, an SS captain, I was in charge of receiving some prisoners. They were surrendering. It must have been close to the end of the war. And here comes a Mercedes-Benz, 1930-something edition, with a chauffeur and a captain, SS captain, and his mistress to surrender. And I looked in there and I said, "That's Amerikaner Uhr. That means that's an American watch." He was having a watch. They didn't have watches, they had pocket watches. He said, nine. I said, "Yes, it is." I got in there and I took the watch off. U.S. Air Force. My brother had just been killed. I got that guy. I got him, and I've never been in a rage. That was a rage. I got him, and I was taking him out the little window in the Mercedes-Benz. I was going to kill him with my bare hands. I got him, and he had been wounded, and the patch stuck in the windshield or something. Blood all over. And a sergeant came and got me, and they took me off. I was fighting the sergeant because I wanted that guy. I wanted to kill him. I was going to kill him with my bare hands because my brother had just been killed, and he had an Air Force watch, and I know my brother had one. But
is that
Louis Valls.
Yeah.
I've got his book. You ought to see his book. Wow. Look at this. All his missions and everything.
I see. Yeah.
And incidentally, when he was given the DFC, some of his buddies that were in the flight, that were officers also, came down and to see us. There was 3. Cornelius, who was in the flight, and he showed us where He saw my brother get hit once, and my brother immediately, the landing gear came out because they hit the left nacelle. Boom, the landing gear came out, and immediately he punched the bailout button. 2 guys got out. Boom, he got hit again because he was the deputy leader. The leader had been hit, and he had to veer off, and he passed the command over to my brother. He was maneuvering for the leader spot, and they had him pegged, and he got hit too. Incidentally, the leader also survived, but he became a prisoner of war because he veered off. All his people parachuted and were taken prisoners, and but the airplane crashed. But that happened. That was Louis. He was another very interesting thing that you've got that beautiful little girl there that you saw. My brother Louis, when he was on the way to Africa and to Europe to go to the war, met her.
Oh, really?
And they fell in love. They were going to get married. He proposed to her. She accepted. They were there about 10 days. And his navigator, because my wife asked Louis, do you have any other? I've got a sister. They're twins, Isabel. And do you have one for her? I says, yeah, my navigator, he's up in the room building model airplanes. So he came down, Bill Stevens. He met her sister, her twin sister. They also became engaged. During the war, the navigator, no, he was a bombardier, missed the target, and Louis fired him. Fired Bill Stevens. So Bill went to B-17s. Luckily he survived. He came back and he married Gladys's twin sister. So I come back from the war. This is 44. Yeah, 44. I come back from the war 2 years later, mind you. And my brother Alfonso had been flying. The war was over. He was flying B-17s. He went and stopped in Savannah, and he met my wife too. And he went just to pay a courtesy call. And I guess they talked and said, hey, yeah, come to Laredo to see us. So she came to Laredo to see Alfonso, really. Alfonso and I and a friend Fernando were sitting in our porch, and they were talking. Says, hey, this girl is coming to visit us. You take her out, and I'll take her out. And they said, no, you take her out. I says, hey, I'm gonna take her out. But you're already going with a girl. I had a girlfriend. I said, I'll tell her about it and tell her that I'm just being nice to a friend. Wow, when I saw that pretty little thing, whew, that was it. We went together for 20 days, I think. She stayed here. And went back and we got married. We were going to get married in Thanksgiving Day, November the 28th, when I had some time off from Baylor. Alfonso and I I got married. I took her back to Baylor. And we ever since, I mean, it was great.
Oh, you've been married how many years?
65.
65?
65. Yeah. But it was great. Baylor was super. I never was tried to be changed to a Baptist. Even though I was a Catholic, because my mother and my father were Catholics. I see religion as nothing. You believe in God or you don't. God is everybody's God. Everybody. I don't care what your color is. I don't care where you're from. God is God. Some people call him what do they call him in Jehovah or different names, but he is supreme being. And that's the way I look at religion. Church, to me, I pray 3 times a day. When I get up, when I take a nap, and then when I go to sleep. And I pray religiously, because prayer does do good. And I've had my prayers answered so many times. I mean, as ugly as I am, how can I get somebody that pretty?
Well, I'd like to talk about going to Baylor, how that happened.
I had a bunch of scholarships. I was very good in high school, and the coaches knew it. Bully Gilstrap from Texas had already told me, hey, come to Texas. Colonel Anderson from Texas A&M had already told me, hey, we want you here. My brother took CTD at Howard Payne, and they tried to get him. He was already at East Texas. Said, do you have a brother? Said, yeah, we want him. And somehow Purdue sent a letter, Purdue, mind you, sent a letter to my father that they wanted me after I got through with the Army. Where I was at Central State Teachers College, the coach told me, says, hey, come and run for us when you get through. I went to the graduation of my brother at Marquette University. Kenny Wiesner was a high jumper for Marquette. He was a world-class athlete. And I stayed there with my brother. I went and worked out with Kenny and with the hurdlers and all that there at Marquette. Western Michigan came to a dual meet with Marquette, and Pope, who had run for TCU while I was in high school, he was already at TCU, was running for Western Michigan in Michigan somewhere, and he said, hey, and he told the coach, and the coach said, yeah, come on, come and run for us. I said, Coach, your place is too cold. It's not for me. And besides, I told him, you already have a hurdler. He said, yeah, but he's no good. So, but Pope called TCU. He's the one that sent somebody to, I still wasn't home, sent somebody to Laredo, left me $15 to go to TCU. And I was gonna go to TCU, and on the way I did stop at Texas, and they told me, you're gonna live in this building about the 5th floor up there, and this is your classroom. It was like a theater. It's about 200, 300 people in there. I said, oh. I said, no. A&M was the same way. I got to Baylor, and the coach they hadn't even offered me a scholarship. And the coach here in Laredo wrote me a letter and says, give this to J.D. Stovall. He won the high hurdles, won in the Southwest Conference when you were born, 1924. So I stopped at Baylor. God, they were so nice, and they showed me the classroom. It's a big high school, that's all. And Stoney Cotton was my guy. He was a sprinter. And he said, hey, they gave me $20 to entertain you. So I said, yeah, hey, I never got to TCU. I signed with Baylor.
So do you remember what you did with your $20 to
No,
entertain yourself
no.
at a
We
weekend?
went
Yeah.
and Stoney kept them. I didn't keep the money because I was very knowledgeable about being a pro.
Uh-huh.
If you accepted money, you were ineligible. So no. But Stoney, when we got a malt somewhere, and I came back and I said, I'm going back home. I'll see you. They offered me then Coach Stovall told me, hey, this next month we're having a meet in San Antonio. I want you to come and run there. I said, okay, yeah, I'll go. So I went, and man, I wasn't in shape. I was in, and Pete Owens was one of the guys that was there. Pete Owens was a world-class hurdler, and I was in the lane with him man, I didn't even make it to the prelims. I ran one race and I might have beat somebody, but not many. I was out of shape, but another thing happened then. During the war, I stole Schindler. You've heard of Oskar Schindler?
Mhm.
I was in his apartment. I stole his handkerchiefs. He spelled it Oskar. And I'm always suffering from allergies, and I used the handkerchiefs, and I got his warm-up, a beautiful black warm-up with the swastikas and everything, beautiful. And I took it, I brought it home. When I went to that meet, that's all I had to and I was wearing the German things, and I was warming up, I was doing my drills and everything. And Coach Stovall came and says, are you gonna wear that thing? I said, yeah, we beat him. He gave me a uniform real quick. And he gave me the most beautiful shorts. They were silk. I mean, that had a lot to do with me going to Baylor. A pair of shorts. Can you imagine? They were beautiful, green and gold. Oh God, they were beautiful. But I ran and I didn't do very well. I was out of shape. And he had invited me to another meet the next week, but I didn't go. And then when I reported to Baylor, he said, why didn't you come the second time? And I told him, Coach, I'm not in shape. I need a lot of work to get in shape. And sure enough, he ran me 6 hurdles, do it again. 6 hurdles, do it again. 6 hurdles, do it again. Oh boy. I ran my freshman year. He got me in shape. My second year, he brought a kid from somewhere, a high school kid that they were trying to get to Baylor. He ran the hurdles. He ran the high school hurdles. I ran the college hurdles. And at that time, I ran a 14.5, and the kid ran a 14.7. So he was about 4 yards behind me. But I was already in shape. 14.5 was real good time, but I did so many things that if I had just concentrated on the hurdles. When I was coaching, I came back to coach at Laredo. Incidentally, I was making $239 a month at Baylor with scholarships and all, and the Army gave me so much. And when I came to coach here at Laredo, my take-home pay was $187 a month for coaching 3 sports. That's all we had. I took my team to Monterey to run against their Olympic team, and I ran the hurdles too. I beat their Olympic champion, and I beat their high jump champion. So they invited me, says, hey, we want you to come to the Olympics with Mexico. I said, hey, I'll go. They said, but just one thing, you have to give up your citizenship. I said, no way. No way. I'm not gonna give up my citizenship. But I had a team. I had a Texaco Chiefs. We played basketball. We in 10 games we scored over 100 points in every game. We played everybody. We beat everybody. We beat the Navy team at Cabanilles. Oh man, we were beating everybody by 20, 30 points. We were good. I had all collegiates. Ken Shockley from Missouri, my brother from East Texas, John Maston from Massachusetts, John Early, Bob Maston and John Early from Connecticut somewhere, and a guy from Mexico, Corona from Mexico. It's just about 5 of us, that's all. We played for Texaco, and we beat everybody around.
Oh, wow.
And
so when is that? That's after Baylor?
after Baylor, no, after Baylor, yeah.
Well, are there some other stories you remember from Baylor? You talked a little bit about living there and bringing Gladys up.
Yeah. I remember that we lived on 9th and Baylor. At first we lived right behind Rena Marsh McLean gym. There was a compound of trailers, and the first Gladys and I moved into a trailer. We shared the bathroom with Jasper Flanagan, an end on the football team, and his wife Myra. We became good friends, and we lived there the first year. If you made it the first year, then you went to a bigger, then we moved into a double trailer, those double trailers. It was very comfortable. They made it very easy. Bert Colgan sold me. I went to buy a car, and he says, "Yeah, you can have this one." I don't think I ever paid for it, but he gave me a 1931 Model A, and I had that. Oh, it was a beautiful car, Model A. It was beautiful. Then the second year, you got a little bit better car. I had a DeSoto the second year, and the third year I had a Ford convertible, 1937 Ford convertible. Bill Martinson, Bullet Bill Martinson, was also on the track team. They were going to give him a used car too. He said, "No, I want a brand new car. No, we can't do that. It's got to be a used car. You can't do that." He left. He made a big mistake. I've talked to him since then and says that was stupid, because he was our sprinter. But still, Stoney, Odell, and I made all Southwest Conference. That first year we went to Wayne Dot Stadium in Kansas and ran. I made the finals. I don't know what Stoney did, or Odell. I understand Odell died recently. I've got a book that has all the names of all the students in Baylor, and but no, this was living very nice. Baylor, for what we had, we lived comfortably. We didn't starve. But we could afford a lot of things that, you know, like who would have a car in college without any means of support? Nobody helped me. My father believed that he should have 10 kids so that they'd help him on the farm. And as a matter of fact, when I told him that I was going to Baylor, he said, "What do you want to go to Baylor for? Get a job here. Start to work." He didn't know that we were going to run, not to learn, because we were. All I wanted to do was make a university track team. And my brother Alfonso, who was already at East Texas, and had the war interrupted him. He went and flew, came back, and he pulled a muscle. He couldn't sprint anymore. They made him into a strider. He ran the 440, and he ran a 47 something, and he was good. And but this was this was my Baylor. The Baylor years were beautiful, even though I didn't realize it then. But track is a stepchild of any university sport team. Football is first, basketball is second, and then baseball, and then track. But I played baseball during the baseball season with the Waco Trojans. Frank Broyles was the assistant coach. He and I played for the Waco Trojans. We were in Goldsway, Texas. He was pitching. I was playing left field. And he was getting bombed. But they put me in, and he didn't want to give me the ball. I remember that. Incidentally, I got bombed too. But at that game, I hit a home run over the center field fence, and they gave me $10 plus $5 for playing. So I made $15 that day. But it was great. Frank Broyles and I were the pitchers. He had been an All-American at Georgia Tech, and I haven't talked to him since then because he went to Arkansas. But Tom Landry was at Texas, and when we had a triangular at Texas one time, the football player set the hurdles wrong. The fifth hurdle was off place, and we all had to stop and all that. And I understand that they got lambasted. They were given a lecture about that. And later on, when I was coaching and I went to coaching school, I talked to Tom, because he was there too, and I said, "Do you remember?" He said, "Yeah, I sure do. We got hell for placing those hurdles wrong." He was one of the football guys that were placing the hurdles. But those were beautiful. Those were the best years of my life. It was. I had, for being ugly, I had the most beautiful wife. She had the most beautiful blue eyes, the prettiest turned-up nose, and the cutest butt I'd ever seen.
Wow. That's high praise. Well,
she weighed 110 pounds.
Well, you mentioned earlier, before we started recording, telling some Guy B. Harrison stories. Are there some run-ins with the teachers that you remember, some of the teachers that you remember from Baylor?
Yeah. Dr. Lorena Stretch. She taught me how to memorize. It was my freshman year. We got in the classroom. She put in 10 things on the board, and she explained each one of them very well, so you could remember that. The next day, you came to class, you better know those 10 things. You better know every one of them, because she tried you. She was super. I loved her, because I learned how to memorize. After that, I'd pick up things just for the hell of it to memorize them. I could remember them the next day. And I learned how to memorize. Dr. Lorena Stretch. Breeding and business law. At the midterm, he said, "This is the midterm, and I'm going to tell you my standing joke." He says, there were 2 salesmen coming into Albuquerque, New Mexico. They're coming in the train, and they see an Indian right there where the train stops, and the Indian was sitting there, and one of them tells the other one, says, that Indian, got the best memory I have ever seen. I mean, he remembers everything. He's great. He says, come on, I'll show you. They got off the train and said, Chief, how? What did you have for breakfast April the 2nd, 1914? Eggs. See, what did I tell you? And the doubting Thomas said, it's a bunch of bull. I don't believe it. He went on. 20 years later, the doubting Thomas salesman was coming into the same Albuquerque. There was the same Indian sitting there, 20 years older. He says, I've got it. I'm going to go ask him the same question and see if he gives me the same answer. So he goes up there and says, Chief, how? Chief looked at him and says, scrambled. That was Mr. Breeding's joke. I remember that. I remember another professor, and I hate to I'm not going to tell you what we did, but
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
don't quote me, because Jack Schleining, the other hurdler, and I were in a class. This guy was an Aggie, and he hated athletes. He hated us. I know he hated us. And Johnny Curtis was there in the class, and his girlfriend was in there too. Johnny Curtis was a halfback, and we were having a test, and it was imperative that we pass that test, because so Johnny Harris, Johnny's girlfriend, had the key. She worked for the teacher there. She gave us a key and says, go and get this. Believe it or not, we went up to the building. Jack was with me. And I went in, opened the door, went in, got the test. She told us where it was. Came out, it was the wrong test. We went back in, put the old test back in, got the new one, and came out, and nobody saw us. So that night, I gave it to Johnny and his girlfriend. His girlfriend gave it to everybody in the class. The lowest grade was 97. The guy says, something is wrong in this thing. He didn't know. No one ever knew. And I told Jack Steining, says, what would you have done if they'd have caught us? And he said, I'd have told him I don't know you from Adam. But we did it. We did it, and nobody knows. You're the first. If you turn me in, they're probably going to take my certificate away. But no, it was beautiful. We had a second. I was a junior. My wife got pregnant, and we were going to go. She was going to go to Savannah to have the baby. So I told Coach Stowell, says, Coach, if I leave now and stay out for 3 months, can I still come back and be eligible? I said, yeah, you can do it. Go ahead. So I hitchhiked to Savannah. When I got there, Mr. Jones, my father-in-law, told me, he says, man, you are not going to find a job in this city. Jobs are hard to find. I told him, Mr. Jones, I'm going out right now, and when I come back tonight, sometime, I'm going to have a job. I went from place to place to place to place, out so many places. Finally, Southern Auto was opening up a store. They hired me, $35 a week. Man, it was great. I worked every single day. I got $35 a week. We put in 30 in the bank. My wife kept 5. My in-laws, wonderful lady. My father-in-law never did like me, but my mother-in-law was, just like my wife. Blue eyes, beautiful. Sullivan, Maureen Sullivan. My daughter is named after her, Maureen Sullivan Valls. She was super. And I worked every single day. My wife would meet me, bring me a sandwich for lunch in Savannah, beautiful town. And by the time my son was born, Edward, the first one, December the 26th, I had enough money to pay for the hospital and the doctor, and money to get back to Baylor. I came back to Baylor, and I had the best year of my life, because I placed third in the Southwest Conference, and third was really up there because all those guys were world-class athletes. I had the world's best hurdler, Clyde Scott from Arkansas, and the world's best high jumper, Buddy, what's his last name? From Texas A&M. He was the first man to clear 7 feet. And of course, my second year, I've relived that race 10,000 times. We were on finals, 120-yard high hurdles. Charlie Parker from Texas A&M, from Texas, came and told me, "Hey, beat the Aggie. That's all we want you to do. Beat Lemmy from the Aggies." So we're ready. I mean, I was ready. I was ready. And on your marks, sit. Wait. Lemmy got up and says, "There's a paper on my lane." He was psyching me out. He knew I was ready, and second time I didn't get a good start. He beat me by 4 or 5 inches, but he beat me. I've run that race 72,000 times, and I haven't won yet. But the next meet, we went against the Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska and all those, like the Big 12 now, a meet in Dallas. I beat him by about 2 yards, but it was too late. I was second in the high hurdles. That hurt. That hurt. I beat him every time. I lost once to an Aggie and never lost to a Texas hurdler. Never. And Augie Erford did beat me from Rice. He was the champion.
Yeah, hate losing to an Aggie.
Oh man, in those days, I hated them with a passion. Texas A&M and Texas, I hated them. It was hate. I mean, it was. I could have fought them. I could have. But now I realize that they've got a great tradition. My grandson just graduated from Texas A&M. He's 6'6", and oh gosh, but it's beautiful. My granddaughter graduated from Texas in San Antonio. All of them are great. My children are successful. My daughter keeps my books. This computer, all I use it for is to get in and out of my bank account. I'm computer illiterate, but I use it for that, and we're living real good. We have no problems. You saw that Cadillac?
Yes, I did.
1999.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yeah.
I got it. I didn't buy it. I got it for free. My sister bought that car in 1999 for $48,000 cash. My brother-in-law also bought one, same year, same model, same color. And my sister died and left it to me. That's how I got it. But the car had been in the garage for 8 or 9 years. I got it with 9,000 miles on it. I now have 23,000 miles on it. It is a dream to it's brand new. I took it to when I got it, it cost me $450 to go and have it looked at from top to bottom, everything. Whatever it needs, get it. And they did. 2 hoses that were rotten. That's all.
That's it.
But that's a beautiful car. I've got a brand new Ford, no, not Ford, Honda Civic that I'm gonna sell because I just bought it. It's got 10,000 miles on it. Now I'm using this, and they say, "Use that?" No.
Well, and you were showing us your airplanes.
Oh yeah.
It's been a lifelong.
Yeah.
hobby.
I started building model airplanes when I was 8 years old, and I'm good at it. I'm so good that I design models for magazines, and they sell the plans. I've showed you the rubber guppy. We fly. I concentrate on free flight, but of course, now that radio came in, I go to radio. Now, electrics are coming in, and I'm doing an electric. See that fuselage over there? It's one of my designs. I'm doing this one with a new type wing, all sheet balsa, but the electrics are now. Look at this. Look at this. This is I did this. This is the second one, but the first one couldn't fly because it was underpowered. So I designed a new one. Look at this is a radio. I'm going to show you the power of these new motors. Powerful. You ought to see that's the motor, half a cigarette. That's a motor. This one is going to be a little bit more powerful. This is a motor. Now, believe it or not, that's a motor.
Wow.
And this will run this propeller very, very fast. They're called brushless now, and it's fun for me. They like my work, and I also write for magazines stories, and I either make you laugh or make you cry with my stories.
Well, you've done that for us today. You made us laugh and you made us cry.
Well, I wrote a story, The Wish, that I sold to a magazine for $100, and I showed it to the Times, the Laredo Times. My God, Christmas Day, they put it in the headlines. The Wish, a Christmas Story by John Valls, in the headlines. And of course they asked me, can we do it? I said, let me ask the magazine. The magazine editor told me, yeah, as long as they give us credit for because they published it first. The Wish, it's a beautiful story. It's a true story. It happened in England when I was stationed there, believe it or not. making model airplanes in the barracks, running track, doing infantry training. And I went to a shop, and I used to buy things from the shop in Liverpool. No, in Bolton. And I saw a kid outside the shop looking at a kit. You know, they had a beautiful Comet Clipper kit. And I asked the owner, says, "Who's that kid?" Says his father and mother were separated, and the father was a good model builder, but he's gone. And the kid, poor kid, they're having a hard time. So I found out where he lived. I went and bought the kit that he was looking at and gave it to him for Christmas. And that's what the story is. It's the wish. I'm going to give you a copy to take with, and I showed that story to one of my teacher friends that teaches English in high school, and she cried. I said, "Good. That's what I want you to do. You cry." And when you're a writer, no tears with a writer, no tears with a reader. That's true. And I try to do that. I wrote one story about an extraterrestrial before E.T. It was called A Planned Affair. The guy was an extraterrestrial. He had come from another planet and seduced the girl came from another planet. Beautiful. Seduced a person from Earth, and found out that the guy found out that well, it was just a planned affair. Mm-hmm. There was nothing wrong with it, but she wasn't married. He wasn't married. She came back and said, "No, I'm not pregnant. We've got to do it again." So they did, and this time she was pregnant. So she told him, finally said, "I've got to tell you this. I'm not from this planet. I'm from another planet, and my purpose here is to find out if we can conceive a child with an earthling. So I want you to come and see my spaceship, and I'm going to have the baby, but I'm coming back. I promise you that." She went off. I sold it. I have an agent in Hollywood. He sold it to Lorimar Productions. The movie was called The Stranger Within. And the only change they made is that the baby had 2 hearts. But it was a movie. My agent went bankrupt. I got nothing out of it. But it was a movie. This happened about 20 years ago. But I wrote a story that made it to the movie. It's a beautiful thing. I've got it there too, A Planned Affair. And I've sold several. It was some very cute. I go up to. I'm a model builder, and somehow I have an operation, and I didn't make it. So I go up to heaven, and I get up to heaven, and I see 3 of the great model builders in Chester Lanzo, and another Dick Corda, and another that already have died, and they're up in heaven. They're great model builders, and they greet me there and says, "You're in model airplane heaven, level 1. Oh, great. What do I have to do to get to level 2? Says, "You've got to have 3 Maxes on a model airplane." Says, "We're going to put you in a place where, whoa, man, beautiful place, to not cluttered like this, beautiful. And I built a model, and I go and get the first max, maximum flight, 5 minutes. I get the second max, and I'm up there in the third max, and I'm gonna make it, but they come and say, hey, I'm sorry, but you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be back on Earth because you didn't die after all. But wait, I'm on a max. I want to be in level 2. And I'm talking, and all of a sudden, I'm in the hospital, and my wife says, what is this level 2? You're not in level 2, you're in level 1. They operated on you, and you made it. Oh, it was all a dream. And what I tell her, says, by the way, here's the 3 doctors that operated on you. They want to talk to you now. And one of them comes and tells me, he says, yes, you're perfectly good. Your ingrown toenail isn't going to bother you anymore. and that I've sold to a magazine too. They've published all of those.
That's funny. Well, Mr. Valls, we've taken a lot of your time.
No, hey, I do nothing in the morning, and in the afternoon I do even less. No, we're doing nothing now. My wife and I are hoping, and my big 3 things in life now are breakfast, lunch, and supper.
Well, thank you for your time. Robert and I want to thank you for your service
you're welcome.
to our country. And we think you're a hero. So.
Mr. Got his Baylor ring.
Oh, a Baylor ring? You're going to tell a story about?
Oh yeah,
Baylor ring?
yeah. I graduated from Baylor, and I didn't even go to the exercises. I was so happy to come home and start coaching and all that I came home. This was in 1950. 1994, we went to the 50th reunion of the Baylor Letterman, 1948 Letterman. And I got up and told a story, because I'd gotten a ring, and I told them that what happened at Baylor was that I got up and I had to go to the restroom, and in those days you had to have a permit. So you went and you turned the permit in. I forgot to turn the permit in. I found it in 1994, so I sent him a letter and told him, I'm really sorry that I hadn't returned this restroom permit, but I really had to go. So in about a week, I received a box from Baylor, and I opened it. It says, reason for withholding your personal property, restroom permit not turned in. It was my Baylor ring. It had 2 diamonds in it, because I made Southwest Conference, and they gave me the ring. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge that I want to sell you. But I told that to the and then later on at the motel that we were staying, one of the guys that had been in the thing with me, I didn't even know him, says, hey, I'm glad you got your ring.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Valls.
Hey, you're welcome, doctor.
Yeah.